Hey adventurers, welcome back. So you've got your combat skills leveled up, but here's the hard truth. In Project Gorgon, your power isn't just about skills, it's about your gear. The right mods on the right items can make or break your build. Today, we're diving into everything gear related, why it matters, when and where you should start farming upgrades, and how to fine-tune your setup with Transmutation, Augmentation, and even Shamanic Infusion. By the end, you'll know not just what gear to chase, but how to bend it to your will. So sharpen your sword or polish your staff, and let's get into the art of gearing up in Project Gorgon. To illustrate just how important the proper gear is, let's look at my psychology and mentalism build, specifically the ability Mach. The left image is a tooltip from Mach 10 when I'm wearing gear that has no psych or mentalism mods on it at all. You can see that without any mods, Mach 10 is a single target attack that does 151 psychic damage to health. Not an impressive ability to say the least. But when I equip my level 90 gear, that damage instantly jumps to 1,596 psychic damage, and the ability now hits all enemies within a certain radius, as you can see in the tooltip on the right. If I use some other abilities that help boost Mach's damage, I can make that number jump to nearly 3,000. Gear makes a huge difference, and knowing when to upgrade and how to modify your gear is the difference between being carried through group content and actively contributing to groups. Now gear comes from two sources: drops from mobs or chests, and crafting. Generally, open world mobs tend to only drop jewelry. You'll have a better chance of getting gear for any slot from dungeon mobs. Crafted gear can be very expensive and difficult to craft. I don't recommend using resources on crafted gear until you're optimizing your max level gearing. I do recommend upgrading your gear at 3 different times as you're leveling your first set of combat skills: level 50, level 70, and max level. Why so few times? Well, gearing can be very resource and time intensive. Upgrading at these levels allows you to keep up with the usual group content in a meaningful way, without the need to feel like you're always grinding for that next best piece of gear. Gearing drops in 5 different rarities: white or unenchanted gear, green with 1 enchantment, blue with 2 enchantments, 3 for red, purple with 4, and gold with 5. Gear usually drops with enchantments for the combat skills you currently have equipped. In the case of my psychology mentalism build, you can see that this gold piece has 3 psychology mods and 2 mentalism mods. Gear will always have an equal number of enchantments for each skill, but for gear with an odd number of enchantments, the extra enchantment is random for dropped gear. With crafted gear, the extra mod will always be from the same skill as the first gem you slot in the recipe. Armor comes in 4 different types: cloth, leather, metal, and organic. Every combat skill has a basic attack that gives a combat refresh every 15 seconds. This combat refresh restores a certain amount of health, power, and armor to the player. Each of the 4 armor types modifies the amount of health, armor, and power the player gains with each use of the combat refresh. Cloth armor restores mostly power and health, and restores very little armor. Leather armor restores mostly health and armor, and very little power. Metal armor mostly boosts armor, but very little health and power. And organic armor boosts all 3 stats by a reduced amount, but decreases the combat refresh to 12 seconds from 15. There are no armor restrictions, so any skill combo can use any combination of armor types, so long it is not restricted from the skills that you have. For most DPS classes, it's recommended to use 3 metal and 2 cloth armor pieces, but as you're leveling, this is not a super important factor. On each piece of magical gear, there are usually 2 types of mods: attributes and enchantments. Attributes are innate properties of the item. For example, this Niali's hammer has 3 attributes. One is a 12% increase in hammer base damage. Then there's a plus 390 damage to the ability Rib Shatter, and a plus 732 to Agonize damage. Because attributes are innate to the gear item itself, they cannot be modified or removed from the gear. Enchantments are listed below attributes. Enchantments can be added, removed, and modified using 3 crafting skills we'll talk about later. There is a fixed list of enchantments for all skills located under that skill's wiki page. Near the bottom of each page, you will see a category called Treasure Effects, which will list all the possible enchantments you might see on a gear piece with mods for that skill. Some enchantments are only available for gear pieces for specific slots. One example is the Burst AoE Mock mod, which is only available on Psychology boots and gloves. Unfortunately, gear drops with a random set of enchantments for your equipped combat skills. How can we take those random enchantments and make a build out of them? Well, that's where our 3 enchantment crafting skills come in. Now, the first skill you should probably pick up is Transmutation. Transmutation has 2 purposes: distilling gear into phlogiston using prisms, and using phlogiston to re-roll mods on a piece of gear at an item workbench. To start learning the skill, you'll want to visit Kalaba, the Rakshasa blacksmith in Eltabule Keep. He will give you a series of quests that will increase his favor and unlock the option to learn Transmutation for level 0 to 30 items of a certain quality. As you level up Transmutation, you will learn recipes that will let you distill items of higher quality and level. Each time you distill an item, you need the appropriate sized prism for that item's level, and it will award you with a certain quality of phlogiston based on the level of the item's lowest enchantment. Next, we'll take a look at the item workbench. Placing a piece of equipment on the workbench will show you all the item's current enchantments on the left side of the window. If you click one of the enchantments, another list will appear on the right side of the window that contains all the possible replacement enchantments for that slot. A button also appears at the bottom of the window, allowing you to transmute the enchantment. Note that once you transmute a piece of gear, it will be bound to you and cannot be sold to NPCs and cannot be equipped by another player. However, the gear can be equipped by any of the other characters on your account. Above the transmute button is the phlogiston cost per reroll. Each time you transmute an enchantment, another enchantment will be randomly selected from the list of possible enchantments. Items also have a durability percentage, indicated by the bar that appears in the middle of the window. Under the flog cost per transmutation, there's an indicator of the percentage of durability lost from the item per transmutation. When an item's durability reaches less than that percentage, 8% in the case of this gear piece, it cannot further be transmuted until it is repaired. You can learn to repair transmutation damage from the appropriate transmutation trainers, and you can repair an item as many times as you need, which may be necessary if you have some bad luck re-rolling your gear. It's important to pick up transmutation as early as possible and stay on top of leveling it, so that it at least keeps pace with your current gear level. But what if you find a piece of gear with a nice enchantment and want to put that enchantment on another piece of gear? That's where Augmentation comes in. Augmentation is basically the art of recycling enchantments. Instead of hoping to find a perfect drop with exactly the right effects, Augmentation lets you take a good enchantment from one item and install it on another. Think of it like salvaging the best parts of junk gear to upgrade your favorite piece. So how does it work? First, you need to train the skill. You'll start in the Kerr Mountains outpost with Nightshade, who sets you on the Augmentation path. From there, it splits into 4 branches depending on what gear you're working on. Weapon Augmentation is for main hand and offhand weapons and gloves. Jewelry Augmentation for rings and necklaces. Armor Augmentation for chest and legs. And Ancillary Armor Augmentation for helms and boots. Each branch has its own trainers scattered around the world, and each one requires not just favor, but also crafting skills like alchemy, blacksmithing, leatherworking, tool crafting, or tailoring. It's a whole ecosystem. You're not just a fighter in PG, you're also an artisan. Once you're trained up, the process goes like this. You can decompose gear. You break down uncommon or higher gear into crafting bits, beads, baubles, ornaments, contraptions, depending on the type of item. These are your raw materials. Next, you can extract and augment. With the right materials and skill gems, you target specific mod you want to pull out of an item. Be sure to use the right skill gem, or else you'll end up destroying both the gem and the item you're trying to extract from. Next, apply the augment. You take your captured mod and slot it into your chosen piece of gear. This costs crafting points, or CP for short. Normal loot has around 100 craft points. Crafted gear has 120, and Foretold in Prophecy or Mastercrafted gear can have 160. Each augment takes 100 craft points, so you can only equip one augment per piece of gear. When it's done, congratulations, your item now has a custom picked augment. But if you don't like your choice, it is possible to undo. There's a way to remove an augment from a piece of gear. Augments can also drop from mobs. There are some NPCs who can apply augments for you if you don't want to learn every application recipe yourself. Of course, precision comes with cost. Augmentation is resource heavy and demands multiple crafting skills. It's not something you'll max out right away. But here are some other helpful tips about the augmentation skill that aren't necessarily mentioned in the wiki article. If you're fishing for a specific piece to extract, you could transmute a piece of gear until you get the enchantments you want, then extract it with augmentation. It is a bit expensive to use this method, but can give you a higher success rate if you're doing it on a piece. When you are hunting for a specific augment to extract from a piece of gear, try to find it on a green, blue, or red quality piece. When you use a skill gem to extract an enchantment from a piece of gear, the game will randomly choose one of any of the enchantments that match the gem's skill. But green quality and blue quality items, or red if the skill you're extracting from the enchantment is a secondary skill, are guaranteed pulls. You can put higher level augments on lower level pieces, so long as that enchantment is not already present on the item. The augment will be scaled down to equal the level of the highest enchantment on that item. Now, let's say your augment is level 90 and your gear piece is level 30. When you get ready to replace that item with one of a higher level, you can extract the augment from it with 100% success if you use the recipe for that augment's level. So, using the 61 to 90 extraction recipe on my 30 ring will guarantee that I can remove my level 90 augment and the ring will be destroyed. But if my ring was level 60, I wouldn't be able to guarantee that the augment I put there would be the one extracted, because all of the enchantments on that ring fall into the level range of the extraction recipes. Shamanic Infusion is the last of the item enhancement skills in PG that we'll talk about. While mostly intended as an early to mid-game gear enhancement skill, it does have some uses in in-game content. Shamanic Infusion is all about fixed recipes. Instead of pulling specific mods off loot, you are using animal parts, things like pig's feet, deer guts, or wolf tails, to add predetermined magical effects to your gear. Each recipe is tied to a specific bonus. Want more armor on your boots? Use a boarfoot infusion. Want a bit of health regen? The deer necklace infusion. It's straightforward. Part goes in, buff comes out. You can only add one infusion per item, so again, choose wisely. Each infusion consumes 100 craft points, just like an augment. But unlike augmentation, you're not hunting down specific treasure effects, you're just applying a known recipe. That makes it less customizable, but way more accessible. To learn it, you'll start with Gershok, who teaches you the basics once you have enough favor. From there, Irkima opens up more recipes across your main gear slots: chest, legs, ring, neck, and so on. If you want to really push it, Bogaku in the Rahu sewers lets you raise the skill cap to 60 and unlock higher tier infusions. Shamanic Infusion is cheaper, easier to get into, and very handy when you're still replacing gear often. It's a way to make your gear relatively stronger with fairly little investment. And that brings us to the end of our look at gearing in Project Gorgon. From the basics of why gear matters, to reshaping your mods with transmutation, recycling effects through augmentation, and giving yourself that extra edge with Shamanic Infusion. The heart of Gorgon's gearing system is choice. You're never just stuck with what drops, you can refine, rebuild, and reimagine your equipment to match the way you actually want to play. If this guide helped clear up some of the systems for you, go ahead and leave a like. Let me know in the comments what your favorite go-to modding strategy is, or the most satisfying piece of gear you've ever built. And if you want more deep dives into Gorgon's unique mechanics, don't forget to subscribe so you'll catch the next one. Thanks for watching, happy adventuring, and may your next drop be exactly what your build has been waiting for.